I feel like I should be in a blazer for this intro. Today's video, as you can tell by the title, is a challenge of me trying to read the 5 most popular book talk books in the dark academia genre. If you don't know what the dark academia genre is, fret not, I did not know what it was either before I started this video challenge. The dark academia genre is basically just books that are set in a schooling environment with something dark happening. Therefore, the academia and the dark. Usually it's something that they need to investigate, or one of their fellow students dies and they need to figure out who, or that we know who it is, but they're trying to hide it. So that's basically the premise of what the dark academia genre is. It speaks about languages and studies and like snobs, and how Ivy League schools and like places like Yale basically have like a history, and there's some dark history behind them as well that sometimes we are not that aware of, that people hide. So that was the premise that I decided to do this video on. I'm very interested in the dark academia genre, and I love a world set in a schooling environment. I love the time of year when school starts, and I love the fall, and I love dark stories. So I figured what better thing to do than to do this video challenge where I read the top 5 most popular dark academia books that I see pop up all over my book talk, all over my booktube. Whenever somebody talks about this genre, these are the books that I see that are most mentioned all the time, and I thought I would give them a try. Without further ado, let me introduce those books to you. So we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is the dark academia book. Everybody and their mother swears by this book. Then we have A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is what it looks like. And then we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is what that looks like. She is the author of Six of Crows and the Shadow and Bone trilogy as well. And then we have The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. This is what it looks like. And then we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, which is the one that I am the most excited about. So this is how I've structured this video. I'm going to read them from the one that I am least excited for to the one I am most excited for. The book that I am the most excited to read is If We Were Villains, The Atlas Six, Ninth House, Deadly Education, and The Secret History. And I only say that I'm the least interested in The Secret History is because I know a lot of people end up DNFing this book, and I know that a lot of people have very differing opinions on this. I've heard that it can be pretentious. I've heard that the writing is beautiful, but the story is hard to follow. The pages on this are thin, bestie. When I mean thin, I mean very thin. Like, we're talking like this could be a tissue, if that. I am very intimidated by it, and I've tried to read The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt before, and I really didn't enjoy it. So that makes me nervous for this and how I'm gonna fare. If I DNF it, it's the first, and I don't end this video with an embarrassment. So that's why. And then, yeah, these are the 5 books that I hope to read. We'll let you know how this goes. I will obviously be vlogging my experience reading all of these books, and I will rank them from 1 to 5 when I finish this challenge. At the end of this challenge, you're just gonna see me lose my mind. And this vlog will be spoiler free, so if you haven't read any of these books but you're interested to hear somebody's opinion on them, or if you've read them and you just want to see somebody read them and suffer with them, then please just keep on watching, and I hope you enjoy this video. Let's talk about it. I started Secret History by Donna Tartt. I thought that I had read this before because the opening, I'm 30 pages in, mind you. Literally, I'm on page 33. Why are the freaking writing is tiny, bro. Tiny font. Thin pages, bro. And this 530 pages, I think. Why? It's putting me to sleep. Listen, I am not in the mood for dark academia right now. I'm really not in the mood for it. So reading this right now might put me in a reading slump at the very beginning of the year. Today is January 9th. I cannot be in a reading slump so early in the month. This is putting me to sleep. Mind you, it's an interesting book. I know nothing about this. I did not look up a summary when I read it. All I know is that everybody and their mother speaks about this book when they talk about dark academia. This is compared constantly to Babel. I can see how it can be compared to Babel because I read Babel last year and I enjoyed it and I loved it, even though it was humongous. But this, I feel like, is so, the way it's written is so intimidating, to me at least. Like, the font is small and there's no spaces between the lines, and they use such big words that I feel excluded, and the vibe of this is just strange. There are so many quotable sentences in here. I constantly want to go in and line them and like highlight them and stuff. I very much relate to the main character. I took Latin in one of my semesters in college. So when they were discussing, like in the beginning, I'm not going to talk about spoilers, but in the beginning they were discussing like verb forms and what was it? Because it made me go back to being in that class. Dative, accusative, like verb forms, and that threw me in for a loop to think about those days because I haven't thought about them in so long. I hope I can get into more of this today and tomorrow because I've had this book for 2 days now and I cannot for the life of me pick it up. I don't know why. It's very much intimidating. The rest of the books on this challenge aren't as intimidating for me as this is because I feel like this is a staple and everybody loves this book so much or they hate it so much. I almost DNF'd it 3 times already. I'm only 30 pages in. That means I almost DNF'd it every 10 pages. And it's not bad. It's just so intimidating and I cannot get into the story. And I'm in the mood for romance. I'm not in the mood for dark academia. So maybe if I read it when I was in a dark academia vibe, maybe in August, I would have loved it. And I don't mind it. I don't hate it yet. It's just it feels like I feel like I'm back in school and I feel like the dumb kid. As of right now, it's a very high chance that I might DNF it. I hope not. Because I want to get to the rest of the books in this challenge. So I don't want this to put me in a reading slump. I will let you know how I feel about this. Hey, so remember when I said I hope I don't DNF The Secret History by Donna Tartt? So guess what I did? I know, it's a crazy thought. It's a crazy thought that I would do it so early on in the year. So closely to the first time that I DNF'd my very first book of the year. I DNF'd The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Hear me out. This is possibly the most pretentious book I have ever read. After filming the update that I had yesterday when I was at 30 pages, I gave it another chance and I read another 40 pages. I think I got to page 80 or 70, I'm not sure. And I am not a fan. I don't like it. I'm not interested. The writing is really boring. There are a lot of quotable sentences in there. Don't get me wrong. I love the writing. The writing is beautiful. It's just really boring. And I'm just really not interested in the story. The characters are so pretentious and the way they talk to each other is horrendous. The way that they think they're better than everyone is awful. And I just don't like it. I'm not interested in it. I don't want to force myself to read something that could possibly give me a reading slump or that could possibly make me not want to read, which I have been doing. I have been avoiding reading because I didn't want to continue on with the story because I just was not interested. Like really genuinely from the bottom of my heart, I could not care less what happens with any of the characters. It might be interesting. Like I might possibly listen to the audiobook. I'm waiting for it at the library, so I might read it later on in the year. I might give it another chance simply because I think the writing is beautiful. But I have this thing with Donna Tartt where I just cannot get into her books. I read The Goldfinch a lot of years ago and I had the same problem with it where I just felt like I just wasn't interested in the story. I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the premise of the story. I just wasn't interested. I couldn't care less, to be honest. And I feel bad because I like Donna Tartt's writing. The way that some of these words are so relatable, like genuinely, I feel like I relate to the main character a lot. But also he's the most pretentious asshole I have ever read about. I'm just not interested to read about people going into like just basically studying the entire time. I know that's what dark academia is about, but like when I read Babel, there was like some sort of story that I was interested in. With this book, I'm not interested in it at all. I did not know what it was about when I got into it. I just knew that it was the TM number one dark academia book that everybody and their mother talks about when you mention the dark academia genre in the book world. So I wanted to give it a try. I'll try to give the audiobook a listen. I don't think that I will, to be honest, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll like it better as an audiobook. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you've read it and you think I should change my mind on it. As of right now, that's not gonna happen, which sucks really bad because this was the first book. The characters are horrendous and all of them treat Bunny horrendously. And yeah, so as much as the writing is atmospheric and really, really beautiful and really quotable, I don't think that's enough to get me to push through it and read 500 pages of this. So maybe it'll be easier to listen to. Now that I'm DNFing that, I'm going to start Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I have read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I know a lot of people really rave about, I think it's a duology. The second one has like a bunny on the cover, a dead bunny on the cover. A lot of people swear by this book. It's beautiful. The book is beautiful, genuinely. I think it's one of the prettiest books I've ever seen, and the snake is gorgeous. And I have no idea what this book is about, to be honest. I just know that it's a dark academia book that's really popular and everybody loves it, and the atmosphere is great, and I love Leigh Bardugo's writing, so hopefully this goes a little bit better than The Secret History. I do know that a lot of people end up DNFing The Secret History, so I'm not really mad about the fact that I DNF'd it too. But this, I've never heard of anybody DNFing this, so I really hope I don't DNF it. Maybe the dark academia genre just isn't for me, but I hope that's not the case because I have a lot of books that I'm excited for in this challenge. Take this as your sign. If you're thinking of DNFing a book and you don't want to DNF a book because everybody looks down on it, DNF the book. Today is January 11th, and I have started Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I am almost halfway. This is how much I've read, this is how much I have left. I'm on page 186. I think I'm gonna try to read today for a little bit longer until I reach 200 pages, something, maybe 250, because I really would like to finish this tomorrow, and I will probably be able to, but I don't know what happened. So here's what happened. Literally for a moment there, when I started reading this book, the first 120 pages, I had not a singular clue about what this story was about, what was going on, and 120 pages is not little. Like, plot actually does happen. I just have no idea what said plot is. I don't know what is going on. I don't know if I was this confused reading Babel when I read it last year. I don't remember if I've always been this confused reading dark academia books. Usually I get into the story pretty quickly. I don't know if it's because I was just reading romance that I'm struggling to get into these books, but as you know, I DNF'd Secret History, and getting into this, I had the hardest time. Like 120 pages in, and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what the story was about. I didn't know who the main character is. I didn't want to read the back summary because I like going into my books not knowing anything about them. I didn't know there was like fantasy sprinkled in. I thought it was, you know, like students murder student, and they try to hide the body and someone gets found out. I don't know what I thought this was about. I've clearly never heard anyone speak of this book because I have no idea what is going on. I'm so lost in the sauce. I'm genuinely, if you ask me to explain this book like plot-wise, I have no idea what's going on. If you ask me to explain it, I'll tell you I don't know. Because I'm almost 200 pages in and I don't know what happened, but around page, I believe 150, 160, that's when it picked up for me. And I don't know how I pushed hard enough or like how I pushed through enough to get to a page 160 or 170 or 180. But the story got really, really interesting. All of a sudden, things were happening. I like opened it after taking a break and suddenly stuff was happening on the page. And I was like, whoa, wait. Where did all of this come from? I don't know what's going on. I'm lost, but I'm very interested in what's going on. I still don't know what this story is about enough to explain it to you. I'm there for the vibes. Simply for the vibes, because I've read everything that Leigh Bardugo has written except for this duology, which I believe is a duology. I know I enjoy her writing very much, but I remember also having a hard time getting into Six of Crows, but simply that was because nothing was happening in the plot. So I don't know if it's Leigh Bardugo that gives me a hard time getting into her story or what it is, but I had the hardest time getting into the story. And even though I pushed through, and I'm so proud of myself because I'm actually beginning to enjoy the story, even though I have no idea what's going on. I'm enjoying it for the vibes. I'm enjoying the chaos that's happening because that's all that it is. It's chaos. It's pure chaos. I don't know how this magic system works. I don't know how, I don't know. Just simply that. That's my thoughts summarized about this book, is that I don't know. I don't know what to rate it. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what the story is. I don't know where the characters are. I don't know. Sometimes you just gotta be there for the vibes. That like Leigh Bardugo's writing is beautiful. I love it. And I love her stories. And I'm excited that I'm getting into it maybe tomorrow or maybe the next time I update you, I'll actually know what's going on. Highly doubtful because it seems that the dark academia genre is not for me. Because I seem to be lost in every single book that I start that's in this genre. And that sucks because I have so many books that I would like to get to that are this genre. The premise is very interesting. The writing is beautiful, which is to be expected. It's Leigh Bardugo. I just know that it's set in Yale and the vibes are immaculate. That's all I know. I finished Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I finished this yesterday, which was January 12th, 2024. And after I filmed the last update that I did for this book, I actually really started enjoying it a lot more because I stopped trying to understand the plot. I completely gave up I said, this plot is not for me. I don't understand it. I don't understand what's going on. I'm simply just here for the vibes. And that's what I was there for. And I sure did get some vibes. This is about a girl. Her name is Alex, and she wakes up from a multiple homicide type case, and I really don't want to tell you anything about it because I went into it not knowing anything about it, and I think that made it much more interesting, but I really didn't know what was going on. I still don't know what the plot was. I don't think I'm going to continue in this duology series, whatever that it is. I do know that there is a second one. I don't know the name of it. I'm not looking it up. I'm not interested in it. I don't want to know. I'm good. Even though the ending of this, for a minute there when I finished this book, I was like, maybe I do want to continue with this series because it's just so interesting, and Leigh Bardugo's writing is absolute genius. But in reality, I do not want to be reading a book that I have to contemplate DNFing 5 times within the span of 400 pages. So although I enjoyed it in the end, and after page 200, I think I really started getting into the story, but up until then, I had no idea what was going on, and even after then, some of the plot points, I still don't know what they are or how they happened. All I know is that I enjoyed it. The vibes were there. The vibes were immaculate. The writing is beautiful. Leigh Bardugo has a way with writing and a way with words, and I love everything else that she's written, and I do really enjoy this, and I do recommend it if this is your type of genre that you like to read. Personally, I don't think I'm as big of a dark academia fan as I thought I was before making this video. I thought I was really in it. I thought I loved dark academia, and maybe I do. Maybe the last 3 books of this challenge will make me think that. But as of right now, I don't think that genre is for me because I just feel like I don't understand what's going on, and I don't want to be reading a book where I don't feel like I understand what's going on. So yeah, purely on the fact that this gave me good vibes, I think I gave it 3.75 stars. Between 3.75 and 4 stars. It's a very interesting story. I do understand why everybody and their mother loves this book and swears by it, and it's worthy of the hype. I just don't think it's my type of book. And I think if I had read this maybe in October, around Halloween, I would have enjoyed it a lot more than reading it at the beginning of the year and this being my 3rd book of the year. It's interesting. If it sounds like something you might like, I definitely recommend, because I do enjoy Leigh Bardugo's writing enough to recommend it. You know, this is not a bad book. And considering the fact that I don't dabble in this genre that often and I still found a way to enjoy it, I think if you do dabble in that genre and you haven't read this book, I think you're missing out, and I think you should give it a chance. I am going to start A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is what it looks like. This is 320 pages with the acknowledgements, so very short. Very short. I can't remember the last time I read something that short. I love me a good map, you know? I'm in it. I think most of these start with a map because they're all school coded. I don't know when I'm gonna start this, probably either tomorrow or the day after. Today is 13th, I think, of January. So I'll probably start this the 14th tomorrow. I will let you know how I get on with this book. I have no idea what it's about. I'm not gonna know what it's about because I don't like reading what the books are about before I get into them. So I will let you know when I start. I will probably finish this within maybe 2 days, if not within the same day, because 320 pages is nothing. But hopefully I enjoy the story. Today is January 16th, and it is 4:30 right now, and I have finished A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, and I read this book in one sitting, but if you ask me to tell you what it's about, can anybody take a guess? I have no idea, not a singular clue what this book was about. Honestly, I feel like this entirety of this video and the dark academia genre so far from the 3 books that I've read for this challenge have been mostly the same. A bunch of students in a high Ivy League school or something of the sort have somebody that die, one of their students or one of the people that they know, and they basically spend the entirety of the book either hiding it or investigating it, trying to find out what it is. This book is about this girl. Her name is Elle, and she decides that the different character in here, his name is Orion Lake, must die. And that's the very first thing you get as an introduction into this book. To be honest, I'm surprised to say this myself, but I enjoyed this less than Ninth House. I gave it 3 stars. Meanwhile, I gave Ninth House 4 stars, I believe. I enjoyed Ninth House because the premise of it was interesting and the magic system was interesting. Even though I understood none of it, the vibes were there. There were quotable sentences, the characters were somewhat relatable, and the idea was interesting. Meanwhile, with this, the only thing that I found interesting about this is that my hometown, where I'm from, where I was born, is mentioned in this book. In Arabic, the use of Arabic is also used in this book, in Arabic letters and writing. So that was like a shock to me when I got there. The romance isn't really romancy, not really. The premise of the story is not really that interesting. I actually kind of, this is embarrassing to admit, but I actually got this book confused with The Maidens. For some reason in my head, I thought they were the same book but different covers. I was wrong. I can see why it's considered dark academia. Obviously, it's the same premise as the rest of the books that I've read so far. It's set in a school. There's like something that they have to investigate. There's some sort of magic system going on. I just didn't think this one was that interesting. To be honest, I regret having read it because I feel like it was a waste of my time even though I read it in one sitting. I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't hate it. I don't think it's the best that there has been in this video. Mind you, I already DNF'd one. This challenge is not looking so promising, I know, but trust me, I'm just as frustrated as you are. There's not really much to say about this other than the fact that I'm glad it's over and I can move forward and I can get closer to finishing this challenge because I feel like the dark academia genre is just not for me. Or maybe if I don't read so many of them one after another, then maybe I'll enjoy them, but as of right now, I'm not really enjoying reading several dark academias because I feel like my brain is getting fried from, you know, the same premise. The next book that I will be reading for this video challenge is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This is what it looks like. To be honest, I enjoyed the other cover of this more than this one. I don't know what this book is about. Hopefully I enjoy this more. This has a very controversial... Oh, there's art in here. That's cute. I didn't know there was art in here. This has a very like differing opinions on Goodreads. People either really love it or really hate it. And I heard Olivia Blake's writing is really like, you're either on one end of the spectrum or the other. You either love it or hate it. I'm gonna give it a chance. I'm gonna start probably tomorrow because I'm burnt out from reading A Deadly Education in one sitting. Hopefully I enjoy this more than A Deadly Education. Hopefully it doesn't let me down. I've been really excited for it. That's why I left it for last because I felt like I might really actually enjoy this one. I'm gonna get off of here and I'm gonna start this tomorrow and I will update you with how I feel about this. It's Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday the 17th of January 2024 and I have started The Atlas 6 and I am 238 pages in. This is where I'm at. This is how much I've read. This is how much I have left. I believe I'll probably finish this tomorrow. It's very easy to read simply because of the fact that you're just reading about these characters. I feel like it's mostly character driven. Like not much is happening within the plot. So I can't really say it's the plot other than the characters and how unlikable they are. I don't know why. I don't know if it's me alone. I haven't looked at other people's reviews of this book, but I do know that on Goodreads it has like a 3.6, which is not good, at least in my eyes. 3.9 and lower, I don't usually read, but I'm reading it for this challenge because I know a lot of people have very differing opinions about this book duology. I believe it's a duology. I'm simply reading it for the fact that the characters are just so unlikable. They're so pretentious. I feel like none of them are written with the intent of them being liked. Like, I don't think you can like a singular character because they're all horrendous. They're all horrible and they don't like each other. And if you don't know what this book is about, it's basically about this man who goes to these 6 people, hence why it's called the Atlas 6, and he recruits each one of them to partake in this tournament test situation. And in the end, there will be only one winner. And they're like the top 6 of like all academics. And they've gone through like multiple different rounds to try to like get to the best 6 that are available when it comes to academics. Have these characters that don't like each other, that don't get along, that don't want to be working together. They don't want to work together or create anything together. They're just out to basically undermine the other characters. I don't know if it's a theme within the dark academia genre to have characters that are written to not be liked, but I feel like none of the characters in this book are meant to be liked. None of them are likable. None of them are funny. None of them are actually good people. They're all just horrendous people. And they judge each other very harshly and they think they're above all and that they're the best of the best, and each one of them thinks that they're the best at what they do, and they each have a different magical power. I didn't know this, but apparently within the dark academia genre, apparently there's this running theme that it has to have magic involved. At least 3 out of the books have had magic involved so far, and I have one more to go. So it seems like it's a common thing to have people with magical powers that have to solve or do something to get somewhere, and they have to come out on top, which I get is, you know, the academic competition and wanting to come first, and that's like basically in your DNA if you're really into academics. But at the same time, I feel like I'm bored of reading the same story in different fonts. I feel like I'm reading the same sentence in different fonts. Like, there's a group of people, they're all horrible, no one likes the other, and they just want to basically benefit themselves and come out on top. And I don't know how much more I can take of this. If I never read, well, no, if I don't read another dark academia book this year, that'll be fine with me, because I feel like I've exhausted the idea of it now in my head. I am only reading it because it's very, very easy to read. I had the thought of DNFing it earlier today, and then I was like, let me not, because I'm flying through it. I do like that it has like different illustrations throughout the book. I think I mentioned this earlier. Like, there's illustrations, I believe, of the characters, and the opening headers to the different parts are like this, which I also think is interesting. But yeah, other than that, I'm not hating it. I'm not loving it. As it stands right now, it's at 3 stars for me. I will see you when I'm doing my wrap up of this book, not the entire series. Okay, bye. I finished The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, and I finished it this morning. To be honest, I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed reading about the characters and the way that there was like this plot twist that I didn't see coming in the end that kind of shocked me and made me think for a moment like maybe I should read the second book. I think it's a duology, so I know that there's a second book, and I thought about it for a moment, and I thought that maybe I would like to read the second book simply because I enjoy Olivia Blake's writing, but I don't think that's gonna happen because I am really not interested in the story all that much. I don't like any of the characters. I think I've spoken about this before. I feel like the dark academia genre writes characters that you're not meant to like, which worked because so far in all of the books that I've read in this challenge, I have not liked any of the characters. I don't like any of the characters. I don't like the plot lines. I don't understand what's going on 75% of the time. I have to push through the first 100 pages. I don't think I've really felt so strongly about any of the books that I've read so far, so that's why I gave it 3.5 stars, and I don't see myself really pursuing the second book in this duology. Maybe I'll give Olivia Blake's writing another chance with her different writings, but not this. Also, I feel like I just lied. I did like Ninth House the most so far out of everything that I've read in this challenge. So it's not fair of me to say that I really didn't enjoy any of the books, because Ninth House, though took me forever to read, and though it was so difficult to get into and so slow to read, I still very much enjoyed the ending and the last 200 pages. So do with that what you will. So all this to say is that I'm starting my most anticipated read for this challenge, which is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. And I don't know anything about this book, much like everything else that I've read in this challenge so far, because I go into my books not knowing anything about them, if I can help it. I do know that it has a lot of Shakespeare like intertwined within the story, and if you kind of have to understand or know a little bit of Shakespeare to be able to understand the nuances behind the story, and like it adds to the story, which I get. I do know a little bit about Shakespeare. I read Macbeth in high school and tried to read some of his other works, so I kind of know a little bit, but not really a lot or enough to, I feel like I'm gonna be lost. I watched Destiny's video yesterday of her reading the Dark Academia books that she read in her challenge, and I will link it down below, and she said she doesn't know anything about Shakespeare and that she's not smart enough to understand Shakespeare, which I'm on the same boat. So I feel like when I read this, I'm gonna be lost a lot of the plot because I don't know anything or much about Shakespeare. This has been on my most anticipated reads for a very long time. All I know is that this has a group of students in a school and they communicate using Shakespeare quotes, from what I know. And they're like really into theater and Shakespeare, and one of them dies. I think that's the story. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'll let you know when I start it. I'll probably start it tomorrow because I just finished the Atlas 6 this morning. So I will see you tomorrow when I start reading this book, and I'm really excited for it, and I really hope that this is my favorite of this challenge and that it doesn't let me down. I unfortunately DNF'd If We Were Villains by ML Rio. DNF'd it once. And then I decided that maybe I was just having a bad day and to give it another try. So I did. And I tried it again. And let me just tell you, maybe it's just not for me. Because I ended up DNFing it again after, I believe I got to 30, 40 pages. And I just realized that personally, I don't know enough about Shakespeare to understand how beautiful the story might be. They use Shakespeare quotes at each other from the very beginning to however many pages I read. They just communicate using Shakespeare quotes, and I feel like I don't know like the meaning of it enough to know what the context is or what the meaning of it is or what it means for the story. And I feel like if I ended up continuing on with the rest of this book, then I wasn't gonna understand it to the full potential that it has. I cannot justify myself sitting through 400, 350 pages of a bunch of dialogue that I will not know what the meaning behind it is or what the context is or what it means for the story. Okay, so now that we're done, let's recap this entire challenge. I have figured out a few things about myself doing this challenge. Is that one, I cannot read multiple dark academia books in a row. Second, I realized that maybe the dark academia genre, while has its gems, is just generally not for me. I don't think I enjoy it that much to justify reading. I mean, I had 2 DNFs in this video, which sucks, but that just goes to show that there are some gems that even I can enjoy when it comes to dark academia, like Babel or Ninth House, believe it or not. But there are some that I just cannot get with and I don't understand, and I don't see myself venturing into this genre multiple times a year. You know what I mean? The Secret History by Donna Tartt. There is not much I can say about this because I sure did DNF it. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which, believe it or not, is my favorite out of this entire challenge. Yup, who would have thought? Not me. But I have been thinking about this book nonstop since I finished it. I very much enjoyed it, actually, now that I think back on my reading experience with it. It's 4 stars. I think it's very well deserved. This was very well written from the 5 that I've read in this challenge. This was the most well-written one that I've noticed in my own opinion. A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I gave this 3 stars. This was very mediocre. I don't remember much about it, to be honest. Literally none at all. So that should tell you something. Then I read The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, and I will not be continuing on with this series either, but this one was a little bit more interesting. I gave this one 3.5 stars because I enjoyed the story a little bit more than I did A Deadly Education. I don't like reading a book about characters that I don't like or that I don't enjoy. Unless it's in a fantasy book and they're a morally gray character, then I'm good. If We Were Villains by ML Rio, which was another DNF in this book challenge, this reading challenge. I tried, I really did. I tried more with this than I did with The Secret History, and that should say something because I really did try. You know, I DNF'd it twice, not once. And I gave it another chance like a week later and I still DNF'd it. Now let's rate them. Because these 2 were DNFs, I'm just not even gonna rate them. 4 or 5, you know? Ninth House is number 1, for sure, for sure, for sure. This was very, very interesting to read. I've never read a book quite like this ever before in my entire reading experience. Second place, we have The Atlas 6, because really, there's like a whole jump between The Atlas 6 and Ninth House. Very loosely second place. And then in third place, we have A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, because I don't remember a singular thing about this book. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my reading challenge of reading dark academia books. This has taught me a lot about myself as a reader. I don't see myself reading another dark academia book for a hot minute. Let me know down below if any of these are your favorite books and why, because I think that would be so interesting to hear from a different side of it, since none of these were really, I would consider my favorite books. I'm thinking next maybe I'll do a horror or like a thriller one. I have a list of things that I would like to read, so if you have any recommendations for that, let me know down below. I will see you probably next week with another video. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day and give yourself some love today. Treat yourself to something nice. I will see you guys again next week with another video. Goodbye.